Gut health is everywhere these days. Gut health this, do this for your gut health. It's going to help with X, Y, and Z. Take these tests, take this supplement. It's become a total buzzword. But what does it really mean for women and postpartum moms trying to lose weight, feel less bloated, and boost their energy? Bloatings, cravings, stubborn weight. The gut has everything to do with this, okay? It's behind it all. So in this episode, I'm going to be unpacking the gut-weight connection for postpartum moms. We're going to be talking about how your microbiome shifts during pregnancy and postpartum, what the estrobolome is, and why it actually matters for hormones and the everyday gut symptoms that could be slowing down your progress. So get ready to see your cravings, energy, and metabolism in a whole new light. Enjoy today's episode. Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos? Whether you're 4 weeks postpartum, 2 years in, or done having babies, you deserve to feel like yourself again. Hey mama, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who understands exactly what you're going through. Welcome to the Strong Nourished Momma Podcast, where you'll find simple, science-backed strategies to heal your core, rebuild strength, and restore your energy without the overwhelm. If you're ready to go from depleted to strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. I want you to know if you have been struggling with cravings, bloating, gas, low energy, or feeling like your body just isn't responding the way you want it to postpartum, you don't have to figure this out alone, mama. Inside the Strong, Nourished, and Energized Mom Method program, I help moms fuel their bodies in a way that actually supports gut health, hormones, and fat loss without restriction or expensive tests, okay? You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars on these tests to improve your health. It's an 8-week group coaching program designed to help you rebuild your core and pelvic floor, balance your energy, and finally feel confident in your body again. Enrollment is now open. Just head to the link in the show notes or go to wellnessbyval.com/program to learn more. Gut health has become a total buzzword everywhere you look. TikTok, Instagram, podcast, all the socials, anywhere and everywhere. Someone is claiming to be a gut health expert, and I'm honestly so sick of it because a lot of the times these people who are claiming to be gut health experts are not experts in gut health at all. And they're often selling expensive tests and way too many supplements. And it's just, honestly, it makes me mad. So there's my little soapbox, and I'll probably bring that up again throughout this episode because I just want to make sure that you are trusting someone who actually has the education behind all of this, especially when it comes to gut health and especially when it comes to testing, because I don't want you to think that you have to spend all of this money to improve your health, okay? And here's the truth. A lot of what is being shared is it's oversimplified. It's very misleading. I don't know how many times a week I am talking to clients and I'm telling them, hey, this is actually not true. A lot of companies are relying on consumer ignorance. Even people who are claiming to be gut health experts and practitioners, they're being very misleading. And sometimes it's also designed to sell you these expensive supplements or testing protocols you might not even need. So do I believe testing can be helpful when it comes to gut health? Because I know that's probably what you're thinking, especially when you're listening to an episode about gut health and being able to improve overall health and well-being. Should I test? What test do I need to get? What test is going to tell me what I need to do? I definitely think testing can be helpful. Absolutely, when it is appropriate. But if a practitioner's first step is asking you to spend hundreds of dollars on tests before even talking with you about your symptoms, to me, that is a red flag. Most of the time, I would say maybe like 75 to 90% of the time, it really just depends because everyone is so different. We can make huge improvements to gut health and overall health and even see fat loss without running all of those tests. And I think testing is fun. I do it on myself. I do gut tests. I do hormone tests. And it's really cool to see and play around with things. But I'm not going to ask my clients to spend $500 or $1,000 on these tests when I don't think it's necessary. To me, that is just not how I practice. And it also starts with conversations, history, and foundational changes when it comes to working with someone one-on-one and especially in my group program. So that's just something that I wanted to get across the board. So let me tell you a story that I often hear. I hear this a lot, okay? One of my clients came to me feeling stuck. She was bloated, craving sugar constantly. She was like, Val, what is wrong with me? Like, I can't even stop with the sugar. And frustrated that the scale wasn't moving despite all of her efforts. She thought she needed to try fancy testing or this supplement protocol to fix her gut. But instead, I said, hey, we need to start with the basics here. We need to start with the big boulders, not the tiny, tiny little pebbles. Because yes, that can be super cool to do the testing and get supportive supplements. But if you're not focusing on the big boulders and these foundations, those pebbles ain't gonna do nothing but waste your time, your money, and your energy. So really what we talked about was balancing her meals with enough protein and fiber, managing her stress, that is huge when it comes to gut health, and supporting digestion with simple everyday foods and tools that she can use without spending all of this money. Now, within a few weeks, her cravings were more manageable, her energy improved, and her genes were fitting differently. She started to notice a difference and feel different, even though the scale barely moved. That's the power of gut health and really focusing on these foundations. So it's not about quick fixes or expensive tests. It is about consistent foundational strategies that help your body function the way it's designed to, and trusting your body. We have to be able to trust our body because your body is only doing whatever it has to do with the inputs and the environment that it's in. So whatever you're giving and feeding your body and the environment that you're putting your body in, that's going to have your body respond in whatever way it needs to. Your body's always thinking, okay, what do I need to do to reach homeostasis and to reach this balance? So a good question I often talk about with my clients, a good question to ask yourself is, why does the body think this is a good idea? Okay. So there's my little rant too at the beginning. I didn't want to rant too much about it, but I have a functional medicine background, and I see people who are claiming to be functional medicine experts, or maybe people who are functional medicine experts, and all they are doing is selling tests and supplemental protocols, and I don't think that is right. So I got it out there. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And I'm sure you appreciate that, because it's not fun having to spend hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars on tests, and then you still have these symptoms and don't feel good. So let's dive into this gut-weight connection, okay? But first, before we do, we have to talk about the microbiome. We have to talk about the gut microbiome, and you've probably heard that as well. It's probably a buzzword as well. Your gut, specifically your large intestine, is a home to trillions of microbes, not just bacteria, but also viruses, fungi, even parasites. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, Val, ew, parasites, fungi, viruses, this is bad. I'm going to be sick if I have these. I'm not going to feel good if I have these. But when everything works in balance in your microbiome, it's this beautiful ecosystem, okay? So think of the rainforest. Everything has to be there in that rainforest. If you just kill off a species, the rainforest is going to suffer. That ecosystem is going to suffer, okay? And so the same thing goes for your gut microbiome. So we do have fungi and parasites and viruses and bacteria, and we don't want to kill them all. That actually can be very, very harmful. But collectively, this community is called your microbiome. And there are actually microbiomes all throughout the body. Okay, the largest being in the gut, but you're going to have a microbiome on your skin. That's your first form of contact, right, to the outside world. And so your immune system's pretty involved there. You're going to have it in your mouth, your nose, mucous membranes. So think mucous membranes. That's actually a pretty easy way to think about it. Lungs, the vagina, everywhere, literally everywhere. But the largest is going to be within the gut, the large intestine, okay? And its importance extends well beyond our digestion and influences the immune system pretty dramatically. How we synthesize and excrete hormones, so that's going to be part of the microbiome's job. The brain and how we think, our cardiovascular system, and every other organ system within the body. And we are technically more microbe than we are human, which is kind of crazy to think about because there's trillions of microbes. There are about 1,000 different species residing in the gut, and it's just super, super fascinating. So let's talk about some of the functions of the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome, so the microbes within the gut, are going to help us break down complex carbohydrates and fiber that our gut cannot digest, okay? So the digestive system cannot break these apart and we cannot process alone. So the microbiome, the microbes are going to be helping us with that. Helps educate the immune system from what is friend and foe and from ourself. Okay, so we want to make sure that our immune system knows self and doesn't start to attack ourself, right? That can lead to autoimmunity. Synthesizes B vitamins and vitamin K, and this can help be absorbed and utilized by the host, which is us, we're the host. The microbiome is going to play a role in maintaining the integrity of the gut epithelial barrier so we don't have a leaky gut and then the translocation of harmful substances within the bloodstream. So leaky gut, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. That is huge. That is huge. And you may be thinking, Val, do I need to get a test to see if I have leaky gut? Based on what we're talking about, a lot of the times I can say, hey, you more than likely have it. So let's save your money and let's focus on these big boulders, these foundational changes that are going to really start to impact that epithelial barrier so it's nice and strong. We want to make sure that integrity of the gut epithelial cells are strong. And then the microbiome is also going to help serve as a barrier against harmful pathogenic microbes. So it's also going to compete for resources. So we want to feed our good microbes within the gut, and they're going to help train the immune system, help with synthesizing vitamins, helping educate the immune system, breaking down our food. And then this is actually going to starve those pathogenic, opportunistic microbes so they don't actually thrive. When your microbiome is balanced, we call this eubiosis. So in a eubiotic state, everything is balanced and beautiful. It supports digestion, regulates metabolism, communicates with your immune system, and even influences mood through this gut-brain axis. There's an axis all throughout the body, right? When it's out of balance, that is dysbiosis. You're in a dysbiotic state. And dysbiosis can increase cravings, it can cause bloating, disrupt blood sugar regulation, and drive inflammation, all of which can make fat loss harder. It can just make living every day harder, right? You're like, man, why am I always so bloated? Why don't I feel good? And we may have this low systemic inflammation going on. And with dysbiosis, we see a decrease in good guys. We see a decrease in good microbes that are actually going to support our health. And we're going to see an increase in opportunistic and pathogenic microbes that eat away at the mucus that protects the gut lining and eventually the lining itself. Again, do we need an expensive test to identify this? No. I've helped so many of my clients improve their gut health, decrease cravings, and actually lose fat mass without doing that. Now, if everything we have tried is not working or your symptoms and your history make it super clear that, hey, you have H. pylori. It sounds like there may be some H. pylori going on or maybe some type of bacterial, parasitic, viral infection. A bad guy is thriving. Then yes, we can recommend that. And you can even go to your PCP to get a general gut test that's going to look at things like Giardia and H. pylori. And of course, there's other tests that are going to be way more in depth than just that. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it, okay? So dysbiosis, everything's out of balance, right? We're low on those good guys. Eubiosis, everything's in this beautiful balance, a beautiful ecosystem. And then of course, intestinal permeability is going to often be called leaky gut. So that's probably what you're seeing online on social media. And this is when the barrier in your gut becomes compromised, allowing unwanted particles to pass into the bloodstream and trigger immune and inflammatory responses. So how I like to describe this is, let's say your fingers were glued together. So if you look at your hand and you glue your fingers together, nothing can pass through. So those are your epithelial cells within your gut. You don't want anything to pass through because the gut is technically outside of your body. Once it goes through those epithelial cells into the bloodstream, that's inside your body, okay? So we want those epithelial cells to be nice and tight. They're called tight junctions. So when you look it up online, it looks like little staplers are glued to the epithelial cells or stapled in so that it actually doesn't break apart because you don't want anything to pass through. You don't want pathogenic microbes to pass through, undigested food particles, something that's your immune system's going to see and be like, no, that's not good. Why is this here? What is this? What's going on? And then it starts an inflammatory response and triggers that immune response. So we want those tight junctions nice and tight. But what happens when we have dysbiosis, when we have stress, physical, mental stress, and depending on what we're eating and our movement, everything in our environment, those staples will start to come apart. So then your fingers are no longer glued together or stapled together, and now things can pass through. And so many things affect gut health: nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, your environment, and what you're coming into contact with, medications, everything. Okay. And so that is going to impact leaky gut, which is going to, of course, impact the immune system. It's going to impact how you're feeling, gas, bloating, fatigue, brain fog. Sometimes, especially if the immune system is really involved, there may be some joint pain. And then, of course, sloppy digestion, depending on what's going on. Before we talk about the challenges moms face after having a baby, let's take a quick detour into how your gut changes during pregnancy and what that means afterwards, okay? And introduce an often overlooked player, the estrobolome, which is super fun to say, the estrobolome. So during pregnancy, your gut microbiome undergoes substantial remodeling. The diversity often decreases. Now, when you think of diversity, think of that ecosystem. We want a lot of diversity within the gut microbiome, okay? That's going to be super helpful. We want to feed our good guys. And during pregnancy, this can often decrease, while certain other groups and other microbes can increase, likely to support the metabolic shifts, insulin sensitivity changes, because when you're pregnant, you become more insulin resistant to actually help with the fetus and actually give energy to your growing baby. And then, of course, it changes in energy storage necessary for fetal growth. So your microbiome is going to change. And then, of course, depending on what you're craving, if you're sick and you're not eating, that's going to dramatically impact the gut microbiome as well, because every time we eat, we have a chance to actually feed our good guys or starve our good guys, and that's going to impact our gut health. Now, after birth, your microbiome doesn't just snap back. Your gut health doesn't just snap back. Now, I want you to think of this. You're pregnant, right? You have all of this pressure from baby. Let's say it's week 39, your due date's in a week, and baby is big. Baby's growing beautifully. That's putting pressure, your organs and everything else. Your gut is basically squished together. You may be having more reflux because of this pressure from baby, because everything's pushing up. And that's normal, right? We're trying to make room for this growing baby. So there are going to be changes in our digestion as well as our gut health. Now, when you give birth, it's not like all of that just goes back to normal, okay? It's going to take some time. And it's going to continue to adapt under the influence of diet, sleep, our hormones, the environmental stressors that we're coming into contact with, disruptions like antibiotics. Maybe you had strep B or something happened and you had to take antibiotics during labor. That was me. I had to take antibiotics, IV antibiotics during labor because I had strep B. Now, because I am well educated in this, I made sure that I had specific probiotics that are helpful for antibiotics on hand. And I also had prebiotics. Sleep deprivation is always going to impact the gut. And as moms, we are sleep deprived, okay? Dietary shifts can push the microbial community into more of an imbalance versus a balance, especially depending on what you're eating. Now, enter the estrobolome. So a group of gut microbes that are capable of metabolizing estrogens. Estrogen is very powerful. It's one of our main hormones. The estrobolome includes bacteria with enzymes like beta-glucuronidase that deconjugate estrogen, making it available for reabsorption and influencing overall estrogen balance. Now, Dr. Carrie Jones, I've taken one of her programs before. She's actually spoken to my class in my master's program. She's absolutely phenomenal. It would be a dream to have her on the podcast one day. That would be an absolute dream. But how she describes beta-glucuronidase is just beautiful. It acts like scissors. So what your liver is doing is it's packaging up estrogen. After you use estrogen, it packages it up. That's hard to say. Packages it up in a beautiful little present, okay? And there's a bow on top. And so it can't get out. That goes to your gut, and your beta-glucuronidase comes in and acts like scissors. And so it can actually cut off the bow, opening the present, and then that estrogen can go back into circulation, and that's going to influence overall estrogen balance. Now, because estrogen shifts dramatically during pregnancy and postpartum, the balance or the imbalance of your estrobolome affects how your body handles these hormonal swings. So if the estrobolome is disrupted and your microbiome is imbalanced, which it's probably going to be, estrogen metabolism may be affected, which can actually influence fat storage, cravings, inflammation, and even our metabolic rate. So this is one more reason supporting your gut isn't just about digestion, it's a hormonal lever. It's going to impact everything. With that foundation, let's actually move into the specific gut challenges that I see postpartum and with many women, even if it's been a year since they had their kids, and how they tie into weight, cravings, and metabolism. Postpartum moms face unique stressors that can disrupt gut health and really overall health, right? Antibiotics, like I mentioned. So especially if you're doing C-sections or there's some sort of infection or whatever your doctor's recommending, and they're recommending antibiotics, that can wipe out good bacteria. So antibiotics isn't going to just kill the bad guys. It will, hopefully, but it's also going to kill the good guys, okay? So we have to take that into account. Hormonal shifts after pregnancy are going to influence digestion and gut balance, especially if you did have a C-section, right? Because they're cutting through like 7 layers of tissue, taking your organs out, putting them back in. That's going to impact, of course, the pelvic floor. It's also going to impact the gut and everything else. Stress and sleep deprivation are going to definitely alter the gut-brain connection. And moms definitely have a lot of stress. It's maybe good stress and just maybe, getting used to that new routine of having a babe or going from 1 babe to 2 to 4 or whatever it is. And then, of course, sleep deprivation. That's going to impact our gut-brain connection and overall gut health. Dietary shifts, so maybe there's quick snacks, less fiber, more sugar for quick energy. Now you're in the hospital, let's say it's after you had your baby and they give you some snacks. I brought snacks. I remember I had different snacks. I had my prebiotics, I had my probiotics. But I remember after I had my daughter, I was in labor for 19 hours and I didn't sleep and I didn't eat. And so after I had her and I got a minute, I was like, oh my gosh, I am starving. So I ate all my snacks in what felt like 2 minutes. And then I asked the nurse, what do you got? Because I need food, but the kitchen was already closed. So they had to give me quick little option snacks. And so of course that's going to have less fiber, less protein, more sugar for that quick energy. And so that can feed the wrong bacteria. But of course I needed it. I needed the fuel. So nutrient deficiency, so think magnesium, choline, iron, vitamin D, things that are going to impair digestion and metabolism. Most moms go into postpartum underfueled and super low in nutrients, okay? And so they may be low during pregnancy, but especially postpartum because all the focus goes to babe, which is fine. But we also want to make sure that we're focusing on you, on mom, to be able to heal and recover. So most postpartum moms are going to go into that 4th trimester super underfueled, very low in nutrients. And then, of course, pelvic floor core dysfunction can slow motility, leading to constipation or incomplete digestion. So all of this creates the perfect storm after having a baby, even if it's been years, right? If we didn't address this right away and it's been 5 years, you're still probably going to experience some of this. And it's one of the reasons weight loss may feel so frustrating, even if it's been that 5+ years since you had your baby. So it's not just within that first year postpartum. So when your gut health is off, it doesn't just show up on a test, it shows up in your everyday life. So this is some things that I'm going to ask you, right? I'm going to ask about what's going on. I'm going to ask about your history. And some of the most common symptoms that I hear from moms include bloating and gas, especially after meals, constipation or diarrhea or alternating between both. That's very common. Persistent sugar cravings, unexplained fatigue or afternoon crashes, skin issues, breakouts, rashes, mood changes, anxiety, irritability, brain fog. And because we're so low in nutrients and we have this big hormonal drop after having our baby, that's going to be big for our mood. Okay. And that's definitely going to influence anxiety, depression, irritability. So these aren't just random annoyances like, oh my gosh, I had a baby. This is just like what happens. There's signals that your gut is out of balance. And of course, you just gave birth. You grew a human for 9-10 months and you just gave birth. And we have to give ourselves grace and we have to make sure that we address it because when left unaddressed, they can keep your body in a state of stress, and inflammation. And then that compounds year after year. And then all of a sudden it's been 30 years since you had your kids and we're not even putting that connection together. And that makes fat loss so much harder. So hopefully that gave you kind of like an introduction to gut health. I could go on and on about it. I'm very grateful for my background with my master's and then my mentor, Angelique Crandall, because I've learned so much and I continue to learn. I think that's super important. So hopefully you have a good background of everything. Now let's talk about simple gut supporting strategies. What can you do? What can you do? Let's talk prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food stuff that feed good bacteria. So those good guys in your gut, we want to feed them. We want to feed them with prebiotic foods, okay? So think garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, oats, bananas, and really any plant food that has fiber is going to help support your gut health and the microbiome, the microbes within there. But prebiotics, they are food that feed your good bacteria. Okay, adding these foods in regularly helps those good microbes thrive. Now, depending on digestion, if it's a little sloppy or depending on what's going on, some of these foods, especially in high amounts, are going to probably cause gas and bloating. Okay, especially if your gut isn't used to it, because then your microbes eat it all up like garlic and onions, and then they're like, oh my gosh, they're going to produce all of these short chain fatty acids. They're going to produce gas, and that can cause, of course, gas and bloating. But these prebiotics feed the good microbes, and then these microbes produce byproducts known as short chain fatty acids: acetate, butyrate, and propionate. They're very anti-inflammatory. They're going to be super helpful in decreasing inflammation, calming the gut. Butyrate actually crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it's going to support inflammation within the brain and brain health, and they do so many things. So we want to add in some prebiotic foods. Now, probiotics, here's where I want to set the record straight. Not every food labeled probiotic is a probiotic. I count that as a colonic food. So kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, anything that's fermented, those are colonic foods. They may support your gut health. They are going to support your gut health. Kimchi is going to be very supportive for the integrity of your gut lining because of the microbes and the prebiotics that they have. But we can't guarantee that these strains or the bacteria within these foods, we don't know the amount, or we don't know the strain. So we can't call it a probiotic. Okay. So often that's very misleading when it comes to when you go to the grocery store or if other people are talking about eat your probiotic foods. It's like, well, it's a colonic food because anyways. So true probiotics are defined by their genus, species, and strain. So each strain does something different. And I like to explain it this way. If you need an electrician, but a plumber shows up, that's super cool, but I don't need a plumber. I need an electrician. It doesn't matter that you got a tradesman or tradeswoman, whatever, tradesperson. You need the right professional for the right job. Okay. So if I need an electrician, a plumber shows up, cool, awesome, but where's the electrician? Same with the probiotics. Specific strains are going to do specific things. So for example, after antibiotics, you want strains that are going to restore microbial balance and help with that restoration. It's not going to completely add in these microbes. So once you stop taking the probiotic, that's it. It's not like you can completely restore the species within the gut, but it's going to help with the balance of that. Some strains often target constipation, others support mood, immune function, some help treat and prevent UTIs and support the vaginal flora. And so we really want to make sure that we have the right strain for the right job. The problem is many products on the market are going to rely on consumer ignorance. They don't list the strain. I don't know how many times I'm looking at a probiotic with a client. I'm like, okay, which probiotic are you taking? Let's see. They tell me, or I look it up and I tell them, well, there's no strain. So we don't know really what this is helping with. Are the genus and the species being helpful? Yeah, probably. But I don't want to waste my money if I'm going to be taking a probiotic. I want the right strain for the right job. Okay. So usually companies market vague gut health benefits without specificity. So we want to make sure that we have that. And even practitioners get this wrong all the time too, unfortunately. So if you're choosing a probiotic, we want to make sure that has the genus, the species, and the strain listed. And this is definitely something I can talk about in the group coaching program with my clients. And they match the benefit you're actually seeking. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're actually going to be getting what we're seeking for. Okay. Now, other supportive habits. Balancing your plate. So first, let's go back a little bit. So we're talking about simple gut supporting strategies. Making sure we're getting in prebiotic foods. So think garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, oats, bananas. You can take a prebiotic supplement, and that's something I can talk about one-on-one. Probiotics, that you have the correct probiotic. You're not just taking something willy-nilly. And then other supportive habits, you're balancing your plate with protein, fat, and lots of fiber-rich carbs. Especially after having a baby, you want to make sure that they're nice and cooked so that it's easy on digestion. Hydration and electrolytes, and your movement, of course, is going to be dependent on this. Stress and sleep management, so that this can be super helpful for the gut, the brain, and the overall body. And then daily movement. So walking is going to support motility and digestion. Doing different yoga twists is definitely going to support motility and digestion. So there's lots of things that we can do to be able to support your gut health. Your gut health is deeply connected to weight, energy, cravings, and hormones after you have a baby. And while testing can be super helpful in certain cases, 90% of progress comes from foundational strategies you can start right now. Right now. And if you didn't have to take a test and waste your money and you can improve your health, how cool is that? So this week's challenge, I want you to add in at least one prebiotic food to your meal. And maybe it's multiple meals throughout the day. And I want you to notice how digestion and energy shift. Now, if you're not eating a lot of plant foods right now or prebiotic foods, then you have to start low with the amount and slowly increase, okay? I don't want you to just go and have like 10 cups of veggies and plant foods, because it's going to cause gas, bloating, and stomach discomfort because your gut's not used to digesting that, right? So maybe you just start with adding raspberries to your breakfast. Raspberries, 1 cup of raspberries has 10 grams of fiber. Maybe you sprinkle a little bit of green onions on your salad at dinner. Maybe you add arugula or spinach to your sandwich at lunch. Something super small, okay, that you can start to add in and start to notice how it's shifting your digestion and your energy. So quick recap. I've been talking for a long time. I can go on, but I want to respect your time. I know you're a super busy mama. The microbiome is made up of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and more, and it's going to influence everything from metabolism to your mood. Dysbiosis, think imbalance. Eubiosis, think balance. Leaky gut, compromised barrier. Now, postpartum challenges like antibiotic use, stress, sleep loss, and diet shifts are definitely going to disrupt our gut health. So we want to support our gut in a way that doesn't require fancy testing or expensive supplements. So think plant foods, prebiotic foods, the right probiotics, and that's something I can talk about with you in our one-on-one or in the group coaching program. Hydration, movement, stress management, it all goes a very long way. If you are ready to stop feeling stuck and support your gut health and finally see progress after having your babe without extremes, this is exactly what we do inside the Strong, Nourished, and Energized Mom Method program. In just 8 weeks, you're going to rebuild your core, fuel your body, and create habits that actually last so you can feel strong, confident, and energized again. Enrollment is now open. Check the link in the show notes or go to wellnessbyval.com/program. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Stay strong, stay nourished, and I'll see you next week. Hey mama, I hope you loved today's episode. If you got something out of it or simply enjoyed listening, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom who could use the support? And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. It truly means the world to me, and it helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to go chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I'll be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.